This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
No music, no halftimes, no sound clips, press recordings, none of that today. No notes, no nothing. We're just here to talk about football. I'm Jerry Mallory, and this is the Hindsight 20 podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. And it's gotten a lot interesting. Nothing has shocked me yet. The season is kind of panning out the way I thought it would. Once we got a feel for how this team really was. Now, I gave predictions at the beginning of the year, and I said they will go 10-6. I said that last game of the year versus the Green Bay Packers would decide the Lions' playoff fate. Lo and behold, that's happening. But in August, we don't really know what this team is. New regime, a lot of overturn on the roster. We're not the New England Patriots. We're not Seattle. Teams that have been there for a while, same coach, same core players. You kind of have a feel of what those teams are going to be. Not us so much. So, I can give myself credit for saying we would beat 10-6 and that last game would decide our fate against Green Bay because it's panning out that way. But we really, no one really knows. So I'll give myself a half pat on the back. But after we get a feel for the team, 8 games in, you see the winning streak. And I'm looking at this last slate of games. I looked at the New York Giants and I said it would be a loss. The way their defense is playing, accompanied with our offensive woes, everything to me said we would lose this game. Bears versus Packers, I can say this and that about the Bears. I was hoping maybe their defense would step up. They have a decent defense this year. It's a division game. Most division games are close. That one was too. But, in your heart of hearts, you expect the Packers to defeat the Bears. They're on a big win streak. They're clutch. They know that they have to win every game to, for things to go their way. And so they're doing it. So there is no shocks, if we're thinking logically, if I'm using my head, but in my heart, these losses sting. They suck. And I know you all feel the exact same way. And so we're at the point now where we're looking at all these scenarios and it's mind boggling and it's really headache inducing. We could win 10 games and still not make the playoffs if that 10th game isn't versus the Green Bay Packers. I'll tell you this, and we'll give you scenarios and we'll talk about things a little bit like we did last week. The bottom line is you have a collision course game. It's probably going to get flexed to Sunday night against Green Bay. We were here 2 years ago and we were at Lambeau. Okay. Big difference because the ball didn't bounce our way being on the road and we ended up losing that game, making the playoffs, but losing the game. This time we have a chance to clinch the division at home. That's all you can ask for, right? To be playing a game at your field in which you're 6-1 this year. You've definitely held serve at home with the exception of the first game, the home opener against the Tennessee Titans. You've held serve. All you can ask for is to have that game decide if you win the division. Take care of business, take care of home, and you're in. There are other scenarios. If you win this week accompanied by a Green Bay loss, you're in. You're already better than Minnesota. Minnesota isn't catching you. They've had their 7th loss. At best, they'll be 9-7. At worst, we'll be 9-7, but we have the 2-game win over them. They have the tiebreaker. We have the tiebreaker over them. And so it's all coming down to Green Bay versus Detroit, very likely. Now, even as far as the division goes, if we win next week, we get this, which many people will call an upset victory on Monday night. I'm feeling confident about that game personally. It's just something about Dallas that doesn't scare me, especially in the playoffs. I've said it. I'll keep saying it. Their first playoff game will be a loss. They're going to get that first round bye, I believe. But whoever they play in that first round, they will be defeated. I just got a feeling based on their youth and how playoff games are won. Now, they have one degree, in my opinion, playoff ball is a pass rush and a ground game. They've got the ground game. The pass rush is kind of shaky. A defense overall, but specifically a good pass rush and a decent ground game and inexperience, if you want to add a third. And so they're missing 2 of those key components. Their pass rush is shaky. This guy Irvin looking pretty good last night, but overall they don't have the defense pass rush, and you're counting on 2 rookies. I don't care how good they've been, playoff in any sport, playoff basketball, baseball, playoff football, no different. It's a different beast. Their lack of experience, I think it's going to bite them in the rear end, if you will. So even if we win, though, we win that game, and Green Bay, if they win their game, the division still will be decided in week 17. The only way in which the division is over is if we win this week and Green Bay loses. Any other scenario, I'm not getting into ties and all of that. I'm talking about wins and losses, okay? I think the NFL has had its fix on ties this year. We had more than, we usually have. A couple years ago, guys didn't even know, who won in a tie. There will be no more ties this year, okay? I'm going to throw out there this bold prediction and just say there will be no more ties this year, okay? There won't. And so I'm talking about straight wins or losses. The only scenario in which this division is sold up next week is with a Monday night victory by the Lions and a loss by the Packers. Anything else? And week 17 at Ford Field decides. Let's talk about the game that was. There's a lot of things we can look at and blame. I'm seeing a lot of memes of that drop pass, and it was bad. And it's, second week in a row where it's just an obviously bad play. Last week where they call hands to the face on the wrong team, not the wrong player, the wrong team. Now, Chicago fans will probably complain. There was a lot of holding and different calls toward the end that kind of, screwed them over too. So, in their opinion. And so that was a very bad play. Now, should Jim Caldwell have challenged it? I would have. Some people are thinking, well, it's only 4 or 5 yards. It's not worth it. But it turned a second and manageable, which could have been, and then a third and manageable. It could have been a third and long. I would have used a challenge flag at that point. But he didn't. Then a lot of people talking about the both the head. And, those are 2 bad calls. I'm not saying they aren't because they definitely were. But if I'm ranking things, let's say, and I'm not giving 10 reasons why we lost, but if I would, that would be 9 or 10. The biggest reason is that lack of a run game, man, and it's bad. It is so bad. Now, you compound a lack of a run game with just straight fumbling the football. Now you really have a problem. You compound a bad run game with fumbling the football to fumbling it when you're just 10, 15 yards from scoring against a defense like that, where points are hard to come by, where we did not see the end zone at all. You can't have it. That's the whole thing, like Michigan versus Ohio State this year. People want to complain about calls. They want to complain about this and that in overtime. You throw pick sixes in the most important game of the year. You fumble on the 2-yard line. You deserve to lose. I don't care about the referees when you do mistakes like that, and the Lions had plenty of them. And so I'm looking at that run game, and missed opportunities. Raphael Bush just completely not getting that fumble. I don't know what he was doing or thinking, why he could not come up with the ball, but he didn't. It's just moments like that you worry about. Now, Stafford looked, in my opinion, pretty good, in terms of, was the finger an issue? He had his normal zip on the ball, and from that standpoint. I don't want to get too much into what we need to do going forward. I do see issues with the team. I do have issues. The screen game has not been working. And you know what? Just stop running the ball on second down, please. I know you can't run the ball or pass the ball 100% of the game. I know that, okay? I'm at the point now where if first down is not successful, either incomplete pass or it's a run of under 3 yards, 3 or less, I should say, do not run the ball on second down. We create so many third and longs for ourselves. Running the ball is pretty much just a sacrifice of a play nowadays for the Lions. Here is my scenario where I'm running the ball. On first down, that's a good time to do it. If it's second and manageable, 2nd and 6, okay? 2nd and 7, probably not. It has to be 2nd and 6 or better. Then I run the ball. I'm never running the ball with this team, okay? You got Travis Swanson out, which hurts, but, theoretic out, it hurts, but, Amir Abdullah out, it hurts. But overall, the run game, we just haven't had one in years. We haven't had a 100-yard runner since, I think it was Kevin Smith on his second run, his second tour with the Lions versus the Carolina Panthers. How many years ago was that? Plenty, okay? So I'm not running the ball on second and long. If it's over 2nd and 7, I'm not doing it because we create these third and longs. And, I'm iffy on the screen games on third and longs. There's a lot of talk about it. I think my boys at Private Detroit, was talking to some of them. They're going to focus on that. Check out their show. I know you're on their website, okay? If you're listening to me, you're a big Lions fan. I know you're on their website. It's the best thing for Lions. It's not even close. You can listen to their podcast. I believe they're dropping theirs today as well. And they'll be talking about the screen game. So I'm not going to piggyback on that, but, the screen game hasn't worked. People know about it. It's getting snuffed out. I think we need a few more fakes, and some things such as that. The offense as a whole has just been blah to bad. Even against New Orleans, where it's like, okay, we're moving the ball and we're getting yardage, and 28 points is nice, but it was 5 field goals. So many opportunities that, should have been 7s. There were only 3s. And so, this game was a disappointment. It was expected and not too shocked. Darius Slay getting hurt was a huge blow. Odell Beckham, they just had a piece on ESPN that move, that slant, or not the slant, the little out route that he did for the touchdown. It was exactly the type of play that Darius Slay defended successfully and got the game-winning, essentially, interception against Minnesota on Thanksgiving Day. And so, you have to wonder if he's not healthy, or if he was healthy, what would have been different. This Asa Jackson guy sucks. Every time I see him, he's doing something bad. We made moves and roster changes. I don't know, what Jonathan Banks is doing right now. I don't know. Losing Quandre Diggs hurts. Replacing him with Asa Jackson just makes it even worse. And I would just believe that some type of way, if we were able to keep Jonathan Banks, we had to release him, and then he went to the Bears. He would have to be better than what Asa Jackson brings to the table. But like I said, this loss isn't groundbreaking. It isn't even shocking, but it still stings nonetheless. There were some questionable decisions. Like I said, throwing the flag, red flag on that non-catch, calling it a catch in the first place, the hands to the face early on, missed opportunities, a superior defense on the road, you name it, this offense struggling. It's all there. All the reasons why, we're now, we're 9-5, and there's no guarantees. That's what we're going to transition to now. Just our playoff blight, our playoff, prospects now. I mean, to say iffy is to say the least, man. We really have to find a way to win that game against the Green Bay Packers. So let's break down the Lions. And you want the good news or the bad news? I know a lot of you feel as though they will lose out. And it's a possibility. I don't think it's the case. I'll say this. I'll say it again. Of everything that's going on, I feel like the last game at home will win. The Green Bay Packers are good, but we're pretty closely matched teams this year. And, we played them close. I know it didn't start off pretty, but we played them close. And there are some ifs. Now, we're going to need Slay. And even if that means sitting Slay out this week, you got to put all your cards on the deck in week 17. I'll say a healthy Slay, or just a modicum of health. It doesn't have to be 100%, but if Slay's out there, we beat the Green Bay Packers. I'm very confident in our chances against them in week 17. But let's start with the bad news. Lions lose the next 2 games. So that means that's it, right? It's over. They don't have a chance, right? At 9-7. Well, that's not completely the case. Now there's a cool app, and you can play with this if you want at your leisure. I've been messing around with it a little bit myself. It's the ESPN Playoff Machine, and it breaks down every scenario, wins or losses. So I'm on it right now. We're going to play this live action. And so I'm at week 16, and I'm about to play out a scenario here where the Lions go 9-7, but they're still the 6th seed, and they make it in the playoffs. So 9-7 means then we lose to the Cowboys. We'll say Atlanta beats, teams of interest are the Atlanta Falcons. You got the Washington Redskins, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, still the Packers, and, Seattle. But I'm giving you this 9-7 scenario where really we'll be competing with Tampa Bay. We'll be competing with Washington, and we'll be competing with Atlanta a little bit. And so, those are the teams that we're kind of worried about. And so our 9-7 scenario in which we make it in is Washington losing the next 2 out of 3. If they lose the next 2 out of 3, that puts them at 8-7-1. And so, we'll be at 9-7, and, we have a better record. Now that little pesky tie really hurts because we have a tiebreaker over them, actually, by beating them head to head. I was looking at that game, and Cincinnati, I believe that game was in England. Correct me if I'm wrong. Cincinnati had the game won. They came back, put out that tie. Is just that little, it takes away that tiebreaker that you have over them now. So they have to lose 2 out of the next 3. And then you would need Tampa Bay to lose 1 more, specifically next week. If Tampa Bay lose next week, that's the key versus New Orleans. So if they lose next week and then Washington loses 2 more, we lose out, we're still in. And that is, it's not an unlikely scenario, but the chances of it, we'll have to wait and see. I already gave you Tampa Bay. They're playing New Orleans. Then Washington. It's a Monday night game this week against the Carolina Panthers. And then week 16, let's see, who does Washington have? They have Chicago Bears on the road. And then week 17, you've got them at home against the Giants. They could lose 2 out of 3. We don't know. We'll have to see. Now, if New Orleans game, if they end up losing to, it's so many scenarios, man. I start getting confused. If New Orleans loses to Tampa Bay, but then Tampa Bay wins in week 17, it gets a little murky. And then there's not a guarantee. The only guaranteed playoff spot with 9-7 is 2 losses by Washington and a loss this upcoming week against the New Orleans Saints for Tampa Bay to lose that game. So that's what you're looking at in the worst case 9-7 scenario. Now at 10 wins, we are sitting pretty. It's not a guarantee. At 10 wins, the likelihood of us being the 6th seed is pretty good. So 10 wins and a loss week 17. So we beat Dallas. We lose to Green Bay. Green Bay gets the likely 4th seed. They're the division winner. We're at 10 wins, though, and we still need some maneuvering. It would depend on what Tampa Bay does as well as Atlanta. We want Atlanta to win that division. It looks like Atlanta winning the division helps us because with Tampa Bay, it goes down to if we have the identical record, it will go down to win-loss in common games. So if we beat Dallas, and it will put us like, so right now it's so confusing. We're a game up in terms of common games. So that's the next tiebreaker in a non-division scenario. We're up in common games. And so if we beat Dallas and Dallas already defeated them, then that puts us in a spot where they couldn't catch up with us. Now, if they beat New Orleans and we lose to Dallas, then we're tied. And so us beating Dallas essentially puts us ahead of Tampa Bay no matter what. And if Tampa Bay does not go on to win that division and we've beaten Dallas, our 10 wins will trump theirs even if they get to 10-6 going 1-1 the next 2 weeks. And so those are all the kind of wild card scenarios. You're essentially rooting for Tampa to lose. You're rooting for Washington to lose. Those are the 2 teams you really want to lose. If you're picking a division winner in the NFC South, you want Atlanta to get the division over Tampa Bay because at this point, we own the common games tiebreaker over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's the team that you kind of want that even record with, even scenario, because at this point, the way things are shaking out, we'll either be tied with common games or we'll be ahead with common games. So Dallas game is really important. But as you know, no matter what, if you win week 17, it's over. You win the division. You'll be anywhere between seeds 2 and 4. It's imperative that we find a way to win that game. And like I said, I think we will. Guys, it's a disappointing loss. You know, this isn't the longest show I've done. It's a shorter show. I've got some things to tend to today, but I want to give you a little bit something to breathe on, a little bit something to breathe in and to chew on, if you will. Just breaking down kind of a quick hit segment or section of the show today of what we're looking like in terms of scenarios and things we have to do. Now, these next 2 games, now with Dallas, we already know what they bring to the table. All right, Ezekiel Elliott is a monster, and they're going to score points. Our offense, you know, we've been good, you know, in stretches, but not good enough. We have to put up more points on the board. I'm thinking at home, Dallas is at least good for 20. And so our team, and we've been routinely holding teams under 20 points. That's all fine and dandy. I think Dallas gets 20 to 21 points. We got to put up some points, guys. We have to put up some points on the board. Beating teams 17-14, 20-7. It's not going to be that type of game Monday night because Ezekiel Elliott, the way they run that ball, and then they also control the clock with that as well. So we have to make our drives count. So, we can't just have these 3 and outs. We can't give away drives because they can control, you know how we control the clock? They can do the exact same thing. So we have to find a way to make all of our drives count. When we get the ball, make it count, not just giving up the ball. You know, like I said, man, if it's second and long, don't run it. It's a waste of a play. It's not going to work. And then the next week, I think we win that game. I really do. I do think no matter what happens, Green Bay, that crowd's going to be electric. It's probably going to be on a Sunday night. They're good. They're rolling. But I think we'll have what it takes. We have the home field advantage. I think these teams are close enough where it's going to be a crazy crowd. The first time that Ford Field has a chance to clinch a division, a chance for us to, that next week potentially, or if it's a bye week, we'll see, but a chance for us to have another game that next week. But it's in the playoffs. It's going to be huge. The atmosphere is going to be crazy. A few false starts will go our way. Now, Aaron Rodgers and company, they have the experience. They've got, Aaron Rodgers. I hate the guy, but he's good at what he does. And there'll be a lot of people picking the Packers to win. But they're close enough that week 17, just like 2 years ago, I believe those two teams were pretty close. When we went 11-5, they went 12-4. The difference was week 17 was in Lambeau Field. It was enough of a boost for them to win a close game. I think the same thing will happen in week 17 if needed. If that game is deciding the division, it will be close, but home field will pay off. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. I enjoyed talking to you all. Not as long as usual, but hey, we'll call it short and sweet. I'll be back next week with a full show. This one is around, 20 minutes or so. You're used to 30 minutes of Jerry. You get 30 minutes of Jerry next week. And until then, you can follow me on Twitter at Jerry Mallory NFL. I'll be on Private Trade. Once my work schedule kind of clears up, I'll be hanging out with those boys a little bit on that site too, privatetrade.com. And as always, Detroit Sports Podcast. It's a whole cast and crew of characters. You love it. You love what they do. Check them all out. Doc and Jock, the whole crew is amazing. So it's not just me. It's a motley crew, if you will. Check out everyone. You got a show every day. Until next Monday or maybe Tuesday. I'll set up something on Twitter giving you the schedule because the Monday Night Football game, maybe I'll have a show early Tuesday morning so we can talk about the game. However the schedule goes, you'll be the first to know right there on Twitter at Jerry Mallory NFL. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. And until next time, this has been the Hindsight 20 podcast.